Hey Sun Space Sun, I'm Daisy Victoria, and today we're going to do another Barbie dress. If you did not see my last video in which I created the pink gingham dress from the Barbie movie, go check that out. I've done a couple of holiday Barbie dresses, and this time I'm so excited to do what's going to be a fairly quick project with a fabric I saw that really inspired me. So I was browsing Etsy one day for Barbie fabric, and I came upon this, which is a berry pink, like a magenta pink and white stripe. And in the pink stripes, it says Barbie. So very cute. Love the colors and the stripes. And I really like how it's very Barbie, but in kind of a subtle yet loud way. It's like a loud, subtle Barbie. Anyway, it's super cute. So I kind of came up with an idea of what type of dress I wanted to make with this. I wanted it to be sort of a vintage, like 60s inspired dress. And I wanted to use the stripes to do like a diagonal, so they would like come together at the front. Having this in mind, I could either draft a pattern or use an existing pattern, and it just so happens that there are lots of patterns that are really popular right now based on vintage looks. So cue this simplicity pattern, which was pretty much exactly what I was thinking I wanted, minus one detail, and that is that in the pattern, the bodice is cut as one piece, and I wanted mine to have a center front seam so I could get those diagonal stripes. And that's the only change I really had to make to this pattern. So I'll show you when I'm cutting out the pieces how basically instead of cutting straight across the front piece, I just cut the right side and the left side and angled them so that I could line up the stripes the way I wanted them to appear in the final dress. And this pattern was pretty simple to use. I also did not use the very large pockets that are in here. Instead, I used a standard pocket pattern in the side seams. I just borrowed the pocket from actually the pattern I used to do my other Barbie dress. I started making this dress while I was visiting my best friend Joy, and I got mostly done with it before the visit ended, and the visit has actually turned into a temporary living situation. So I'll get into that when we get to that part of the video. Let's start making the dress. I am using Simplicity 9449, which is a 1960s vintage inspired pattern. Here is how I'm laying out the pattern pieces so I can cut them out of this striped fabric. I am shorter than the standard model size, so as you can see here, I've folded the bodice pattern pieces in the middle there to shorten them, and I am now tracing the pattern markings onto my fabric. I have also angled the bodice pattern pieces at a 45-degree angle, so that way I'll have the stripes going downward toward the center to meet in the middle. I'm also shortening the skirt. So this is easy. I'm just measuring the hem to be shorter than what it is on the pattern. And here I'm cutting out some pockets. Now you can see how those stripes line up on the bodice. Here I've sewn the darts, the shoulder seams, and that front seam together. So because I cut these on a 45-degree angle, that's what provides that stripe pattern. Part of sewing is always ironing your seams. I'm ironing my darts open and ironing my seams toward the back. Since I was visiting, I didn't have my serger with me, so I just used a zigzag stitch to secure the insides of the seams. Here's how I'm installing the pockets. This is a little different from the pattern, so if you're making this pattern and using this adaptation, this will show you how to do that. I sew the pocket pattern pieces onto the sides of the skirt, and I'm attaching them just slightly below the waist here, and I sew those right sides together. 2 on the front, 2 on the back, so they're all on basically the 4 sides. And here you can see how that's going to look on the skirt. So we're looking here for the placement of the pockets, and I actually decided I wanted them a little bit lower. Just trying the skirt on with the pockets there and setting your hand down to see if it feels right is a really good way to see if you've placed the pocket at a position you enjoy. Once those pockets are sewn on, I sewed the side seams just like normal, except sewing around the pockets. So I sew down into the skirt at the top, around the pocket, and then back down the bottom of the skirt. The next part is attaching the bodice and the skirt together. This is pretty simple to do here, just part of the pattern. I made sure all those little seams match up so it looks nice and neat with my stripes, you know, as closely matched everywhere as possible. A little more ironing and we're ready to move on. Now, I was so confident with the length of my dress, I decided to go ahead and hem it before moving on to the other finishing steps. And I did that simply by folding over and ironing my fabric twice. And when I sew this hem, I like to sew it from the right side of the fabric instead of the wrong side, because it just helps me to manipulate it better and get fewer wrinkles when I'm doing a hem this way. As you know, there is more fabric in the outside edge of the hem than there is on the inside because of it being circular. So just a little tip. So it's been a while. I actually ended up moving pretty suddenly across the country. Things have been uprooted, things are a little topsy-turvy right now. One thing I would like to do to kind of settle back in is finish this dress. It is nearly done. I really just have bindings and zipper to finish. So I went ahead and pinned some bias binding around the sleeve openings or arm openings. Sleeveless. I'm using a bias binding that I bought at the store which matches the color of the fabric, and it's really just sandwiching that edge there, and then at the very edge I've folded it over on itself so that I don't have a raw edge. I'm going to sew that down. Then I need to bind the neckline, and the back needs a zipper, and then we'll have a Barbie dress. So I am now in a totally different place. I am no longer in Texas. I am in Washington State. I am presently staying with my best friend Joy while some big life changes are happening. Sometimes things happen that you didn't really plan for and you didn't really necessarily think you wanted, but there's always something good to be found within those life changes, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds for me. I know that's kind of like a big thing to say in the midst of a very small and simple dress project, but one thing that I feel strongly about is putting out into the universe a message of positive growth and healing. And that's not to say that there aren't big feelings, because I have a lot of those and it's very important to feel them. Those big feelings can exist alongside the hopeful, happy ones, and that's okay. Another good, happy thing about this life transition is this is butterscotch. So I was volunteering at a cat shelter in Texas, and I fell in love with so many of the cats, but one cat in particular I quickly bonded with, and I knew she was the one that would come home with me. Leaving Texas, I was really sad that I may not be able to take her, but it turns out I was. So Butterscotch is here and she's with me and she's my sweet baby and I love her. Okay, so let's finish up this dress. It's almost done. Here I'm binding the armholes and I'm simply sewing on that bias binding, which I've already pinned on, and I'm making sure to overlap it where it joins together so it has a nice clean finish. And then I did the same thing to the neckline. For the zipper, I am using an invisible zipper, which I installed with the zipper foot on my sewing machine. So the way you do that is you basically sew it onto one side, right sides together, then sew it onto the other side, right sides together. I showed you this more in my last Barbie video, so we're going quick here and moving on to just tucking these edges of the zipper in. I'm folding those down and then I'm hand tacking them so that it looks clean there at the top of the back opening. So the dress is basically done now, but I decided to add one more detail, and that is a belt. This is just a simple ribbon belt. I'm using a slidey belt buckle, technical terms here, always. The same one I used in my last Barbie dress because I bought a package of them. I think the belt really pulls this dress together, and I'm very pleased with its addition. Now the ribbon is very thin, so you can either double the ribbon, or if you want to just be super quick like I was here, you may want to pin it to your dress when you wear it, which is not a bad idea anyway to keep things in place, but totally works. And also, trying it on helps you to make sure that it is the right length. I like to burn the edge of this ribbon with a lighter so I don't have to actually hem it, and that's because it is a polyester ribbon. The edge will burn and bead like that, so it will finish itself off. I'm overall very happy with this dress. It's another great Barbie look, and I may even like it better than the Barbie movie dress I made last time, just because it's a little bit of a more like all occasion casual dress, but I do like both of them, and both are very comfy. Now, the bonus to taking pictures in a public area is that you get to meet people while you're dressed up taking the photos. And obviously I looked pretty clearly like Barbie here, and I got to meet a few kids who were so excited to meet Barbie, and it was adorable and totally made my day. Oh, thanks guys. If you enjoyed this project, I hope that you will stick around. Subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything else I put out here. Find me on all the social medias as Daisy Victoria. My website is daisyvictoria.com. And a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon who help me so much in creating new content just like this. I hope you all have an absolutely magical day, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye. Butterscotch, sit. We're still working on this one. Sit. Butterscotch, sit. Good, sit.